Oh, I wet my plants.
You wet your plants? Do you mean you wet your pants?
No, I wet my plants.
Oh my god. I'm Lamont, and guess what? I love mangoes.
And I'm Leah, and I can't get enough of broccoli.
I can't get enough. I can't get enough. And
And you're
you're tuning
tuning into
into the
the
Lamont
Lamont and
and
Leah
Leah
podcast.
podcast. So, Leah, we have your fiance, Patrick Cullen, coming on to talk to us today about plants. Later, you have a surprise activity for us, and we are going to hear what I have to say about growth. Are you
I'm
ready?
I'm very ready. Let's go.
So, Leia, who's your special guest?
All right, today our special guest is someone that I have no idea who they are. They definitely aren't in the same house as me, and they definitely aren't wearing my headphones to record all of this. This is Patrick. Oh, sorry, I can't say your last name.
How dare you? It's Cullen. It
How do
is
you
Patrick
pronounce it?
Cullen.
Cullen? Oh, okay, I've never heard that name before in my life.
How dare you? just how dare you right now? Just how you know how I feel about Twilight. You know.
Or she sticks me in the guest room.
For anyone that doesn't know, this is Patrick. This is my fiance. We talked a lot about him in the first episode, I think. But just a quick rundown. We've been dating for what feels like 8 million years. I'm not mad about it. We live together. We have a dog. And yes.
And about 1 million plants.
1 million plants.
Speaking of which, that's
Right.
what this episode is about.
Yeah.
Segue. Yes.
Before we get started, Patrick, would you like to do any other introductions besides the weird one that I just gave?
Yeah, Patrick, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everyone know like what's amazing about you.
Oh, okay. Well, hello. My name's Patrick. I am a homeless man that Leia brought inside. I am a garden enthusiast, which is why they've invited me to the show to talk about plants today. And yes, I'm very excited.
Yay!
I'm excited to use that in writing now. Special guests are Patrick Cullen, garden enthusiast.
Yes.
Awesome title.
Patrick, when I first met you, we were in college. And I don't ever recall there really being too many plants around the dorms. And I also remember visiting your house for the first time. And you guys had like a nice backyard, but there wasn't really a garden. So, would you like to tell us why and how you got into gardening?
Ooh.
Well, I wanted to start getting into gardening to grow my own food because food's expensive. We
And
all know that.
Hawaii.
Yes, it is. And I just wanted to have another source of food that wasn't going to break the bank, that was healthy, most importantly. Because a lot of the food nowadays has some questionable stuff in it, and it doesn't, it just rubs me the wrong way, man, you know? And so
I feel that. I feel that.
So I just wanted to grow my own food, and yeah, it started off little and just grew and grew from there because it turned out to be much more rewarding than I ever knew it could be. Personally, I'm a indoor kind of guy who likes video games and making art and stuff, so I never really had a green thumb up until you know the food thing, and then it just turned into a hobby from there that has slowly replaced other hobbies. Because of how rewarding it is, really. Yeah.
That's great, man. Speaking of like questionable food, I remember like I'm not sure if it was Pizza Hut or something, like one of them in their crust, like they have the ingredients, like it's different. Like obviously if you like it's one of the formulas or ingredients that can be turned into cardboard, but in the ingredient that it is now, it's edible. So it's edible, but it's used to make cardboard. And that was a little concerning for me when I found out about that.
Yeah.
That's concerning for me right now.
It's fresh news to many. Sometimes you don't really hear about it too much. It's I mean that might be considered one of those things too. I was my main concern of all of them was pesticide use, because pesticides are obviously just meant to kill things, and they do a very, very good job. Like, kudos to the chemical manufacturers. Like, it works. It works so well that certain people just get really bad side effects from it in particular, and depending on how much of it is in your diet can really affect your health. And that's my main really motivation behind this, is having a pesticide free garden, not only for me but for all the bugs that are living nearby, because pesticides are known to lower the numbers of insects and birds in very terrible, dramatic ways, near where they're applied and even downwind where it drifts over time.
Like a butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly.
What's
it's
the
a chain
butterfly
reaction.
effect?
The butterfly effect is basically the idea that one tiny thing, no matter how insignificant we think it may be, can cause chain reactions that become much bigger effects. So what she means is, I guess, once in a while, if you use the pesticide to kill some weeds in your yard, you know, it may not seem like a big deal, but if you continue to use it and use it, you may build up levels of this toxin that are bad for you, you know. Like, once in a while to use some pesticide may not be as bad, but sustained use of the stuff is definitely proving to be very bad for people's health.
Gotcha.
So
So is
the
that kind of what the movie's about? The butterfly effect? I've never seen it.
I don't know.
No, that
But,
was
like-
my interpretation of it, but
Yeah.
Like it just okay.
I should see the movie.
Wait, so going back to the pesticides, so if someone uses like I think the most common one that people know is like Roundup. So if people use Roundup in their garden to like get rid of weeds, that can get into like the food that they're growing. It's not
Yeah.
just going to affect the weeds.
Absolutely, because we live in a fluid, and so whenever we spray something, those particulates will travel like it would if you were to spray something underwater. It would just travel wherever the wind takes it. So if you spray the weeds, you might end up getting some residually on your crops. But another important thing is that it doesn't leave the soil for about 5 years.
Oh wow. That's a long time
Days.
to be in the soil.
Yeah, it takes a long time to decompose. But when it does, it is much safer. But for that time, it is still active and does cause issues. So if another thing about being organically certified is to make sure that your land isn't residually contaminated in that way.
Didn't know that.
So Patrick, how do you deal with the bugs? I know bugs eat plants. So what tricks or tools do you use to make sure that doesn't happen to you?
Well, when a plant is weaker and it's not as healthy as it could be, it's a bigger magnet and a bigger susceptibility to bugs. So if the plant is unhealthy and if it's not doing well, it will get bugs more often than if it weren't unhealthy. One thing you can do is give plants lots of space and plant them with other plants that are beneficial for them, that keep those bugs away and keep them healthy so that they can repel the bugs themselves.
Yes, I have heard about that. There are some plants that certain bugs don't like. So you can actually look up what types of bugs are in your area. So for us, what is it, Patrick? We have
Tons of white flies.
White flies and like roaches and slugs and stuff. I don't know if there's anything that can get rid of roaches because they're everywhere here, But yeah, there are certain plants that some bugs don't like. So if you look up the types of bugs in your area and be like, what kind of plants don't they like? You can actually like co-plant. I don't know if that's like the right term, but you can like co-plant them together so that there's like some preventative measures and whatnot.
Exactly. If you see plants in the wilds, you notice them growing together and doing really well, and you're like, man, why don't my plants do that well? I give them so much care. They're really working with each other. Their roots network and they communicate through their roots using chemicals and other things like fungus highways. They've been working together to pass nutrients along and pass messages to each other in exchange for nutrition and materials from the plants. So if your plants have a lot of neighbors that are good for them and they can communicate and share nutrients and share warnings of when things are dangerous, then they're very well off a lot of the time without the need for pesticides. One example of plants that bugs don't like are herbs. A lot of these flavors that we like are actually defense mechanisms to keep bugs away.
Cool.
Like onions, that pungent taste, or peppers, that spice. A lot of that is just to keep plants and animals from eating them. We humans are very large and persistent, and we found these flavors to be delicious and not harmful after a while. And so we use them for cooking, and that's how we know them, but that is what they are, defense mechanisms.
Interesting.
Natural defense mechanism.
Natural defense
Exactly.
mechanisms.
Yes. And it's a way better use of land and way healthier for the plants that way too.
So I know what's outside because I was just out there. But why don't you share with our listeners what types of plants we have in our garden, and maybe if you want to share what your favorite ones are. If you have any favorites. I don't know if you have favorites.
He said he loves succulents.
Succulents.
The list of plants I have and the list of favorites are about the same. I'm very bad at choosing favorites. I guess that'll make me a good parent someday, but
Yes.
yay. I have least favorites.
Don't tell your children that.
Yeah, bad parent. Well, the plants I have are rosemary, kale, bok choy, tomatoes, thyme, potatoes, strawberries, pomegranates, succulents, cactuses, ferns, predatory plants, pitcher plants, Venus flytrap plants.
Oh, okay.
Like 30 kinds of succulents, like 6 kinds of aloe, broccoli, thyme, oregano, pineapples. We have raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. What else? We got peppers, tomatoes. Might have mentioned tomatoes already. Just all kinds of stuffs.
Wow, you grow all this stuff and you eat all this stuff. So what do you buy at the store? Do you hardly ever? You probably don't buy vegetables or produce at the store.
I do buy a lot at the store.
Yeah.
What I like to do here is grow things that are easy to grow and that we eat a lot, like leafy greens, kales, bok choys, and herbs. Because the price of herbs at stores can be very high.
Yes.
Like we have a rosemary bush outside the size of a car, and
yeah, the thing is ginormous.
Each little piece, like about this big or so, goes for $3 at the store.
Wow.
So I got like $1 million bush outside.
Oh yeah, apparently, like cutting that sucker up and be like, hey, like, well, I'll sell you these. Give me the money.
We pretty much just give it away to whoever comes over.
Yeah, for the rosemary.
Like, please take some rosemary.
Yeah. But
it's related to pines. It's like a pine tree. It's just a bush.
But going back to what you said, Lamont, we actually, as many things as we have in the garden, we actually don't have a lot of room. Actually, Patrick and his dad just finished building a new planter box, so now we're gonna have a little more room. But we actually don't have a lot of room. So one day we do want to be able to be more self-sufficient, so where we don't have to be going to the grocery store. But realistically, with the amount of room we have, we can't have like all of our food completely grown. just because, some plants only grow certain times of the year.
True.
And I think actually that's what a lot of people don't realize about the food that's in the store is that we have, like, for example, tomatoes all year long.
We do.
Tomatoes aren't naturally grown all year long. So I don't know when it started, but people started to be more like dependent on grocery stores providing things for them all year round. Whereas before that point, which again, I don't know exactly when that started, people used to eat seasonally. That's why if you look at a lot of old recipes, they'll be like, whatever vegetable is in season within the recipe. Because there was a time where people weren't able to get all the vegetables and all the fruits that they wanted all year round.
Right.
So ideally we would like to have our own like mini farm where we can like be more self-sufficient and grow these foods and then store them away for when they're not in season. But for right now, we grow what we can, and then every once in a while we'll have like a really nice meal with like all the stuff we've grown, and it just feels really nice. And I say we grown, but I don't do nothing. I just like look at the plants and go, you go girl. You grow. And I'll be
that helps.
I send all the
isn't there
positive
this
vibes.
isn't there this belief that and it seems like it's really real, but isn't there this belief that you need to talk to your plants and love your plants and like a lot of like good energy and good vibes?
Mm-hmm.
Like how real is that? Like what do you think?
Well, plants are very aware of their surroundings. They really are they're really there consciously.
Alive.
As much as we are, just very differently.
Mm-hmm.
They can sense vibrations and they can sense noises and things like that. And I'm not sure what types of frequencies produce the best results, but Mythbusters did that, and it turns out death metal grows fastest. Speaking nicely to the plants killed them, and speaking harshly had no effect, but death metal made them grow the fastest. It might just be the hard audio stimulation of rock that makes their roots stimulated in some way. But plants are extremely, extremely conscious and wonderful beings that are much more alive than we give them credit for most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they do communicate with each other. If you put plants together in the same box, fungus helps their roots form communication channels, sending messages and sending nutrients to each other.
So the first time you said that, I wanted to bust out and be like, Patrick, I want to communicate with you. How come we're not planted?
We got Facebook.
We got Facebook. That works.
But also the imagery that also came in mind was from Avatar, the blue movie Avatar people, and like that big tree and how it was connected to like everything.
Yeah.
Even the people.
It's really powerful imagery because it's very true. They used a visual reference with the ponytail and that thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing was called.
What is happening with the intertwining of the thingies?
It technically represented like a penis, but it wasn't a penis. And guys and girls have them.
I don't know, but
it's just
good imagery though. Like it's a visual representation of it.
Exactly. Just like that tree on that planet, our forests are extremely interconnected in that way, especially ancient forests. The most important use of this communication is to help young children of these plants. So if a large tree were to have seeds, for example, nearby, it would help those seeds get bigger by transporting sugars and other nutrients to it that are in its reserves. So, and also if a plant is growing nearby that this plant is combative with, it will send toxins to try to kill it specifically.
Oh, wow. So plants can be murderous.
Yes, plants can be just as competitive as we humans.
Wow.
And a peaceful forest to us may be a battleground to those plants, especially forests out here in Hawaii where we see lots of invasive plants taking over once endemic landscapes. There are a lot of trees here that send toxins into the soil so that only that species grows. So
it actually like saps nutrients from the soils to the point where like there's whole fields and areas and mountainsides that you can't grow anything anymore just because the nutrients have been zapped. So the indigenous plants can't be grown there. But there are a lot of people who are trying to revitalize those areas by uprooting the ones that are not supposed to be there and trying to like figure out what we need to do with the soil in order to, you know, regrow the native plants that should be there. And
Wow.
it may sound kind of like weird and like, why would you do that to people who aren't from an island? But an island ecosystem is closed and it's like very small and fragile. A lot of people don't know that or understand that. So having the native species here instead of like the non-native species will actually help the land flourish instead of like die back. Fun fact.
That was very interesting. Like, I didn't even realize there was like this war, this unspoken war going on between plants. I just thought plants were peaceful creatures and you're horrible people.
Yeah, not
Right,
all,
right. No, not all, but like,
just in certain environments, but ours out here, a lot of it.
Yeah, and one universal thing is that in life there seems to always be a competition for nutrients, land, and other things. It's not just with humans; it's with pretty much anything where there is finite space and things must fight. Certain plants from some regions are very, very aggressive compared to other ones. Say, for example, succulents.
Yeah, Patrick is now showing us a little blue Echeveria.
Yes.
Yeah, a little blue Echeveria succulent. Ooh, looking like
These plants grow in the desert, and
right.
where they're from, they grow very slowly because there isn't very much water for them, and so they must grow in a very responsible way so that they don't grow too fast and use too much, and so that they can preserve themselves for long periods of time and reproduce. So these are an example of a non-combative type of plant.
Are succulents good for healing? Like wounds and stuff?
This one is, and you know this one.
I bet it's good to eucalyptus.
Patrick is
It
looking
is
for an
aloe.
An aloe, as we would call
Yes.
it here in Hawaii, but most people know it as aloe vera.
Yeah, aloe vera. It's called the plant of the gods by the Egyptians because it contains many things that are very, very good for you. You can eat it, or you can rub it on your skin, or you can blend it up and water your garden with it and
We
give the
can put it
garden
in your
nutrition.
hair. Makes your hair really nice and soft. I do that sometimes.
Yeah, that too. It is definitely credited to long lifespans for ancient people and modern people, and incorporating it in your diet would be very good to help alleviate stress from toxins like pesticides too.
And it grows so freaking fast. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
They grow very quick. Yeah.
Never ending.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful plant. It's one of many, and all of these medicinal benefits are very effective. Not as a cure for a disease that's very advanced. Like some people, a lot of people complain that holistic medicine, it doesn't work, it's not effective, but it can be if you use it in your life often as a preventative.
Right.
Like it becomes so that you don't have cancer instead of trying to put a Band-Aid on cancer with aloe.
Yeah. Patrick has prepared a top 3 list of like more decorative plants and also a top 3 list of edible type plants that he's going to share with us.
Medicinally, we can start with aloe as being one of my 3 decorative plants. This one is very, very easy to grow. All of the leaves are big and full of water so that they can survive in the desert for very long periods of time. Pretty much they just use the leaves as storage, and whenever it gets too dry, they'll suck all of the water out of one leaf and toss it. And they just do that. They just do that one leaf at a time until water comes and they can refill them and grow more leaves.
So aloe is both decorative and edible / medicinal.
Yep, it sort of fits into both.
Okay.
But I'll put it into the
And it's a survivor, apparently.
it is, yes.
Put
Put it in my category of top 3 easiest decorative plants because it's very pretty most of the time when it's not being used.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just super, super easy to grow. A lot of the reason people don't do well with succulents is they apply the same care they would to a normal plant to the succulent.
And they water it too much, pretty much.
Out in the desert, water comes very scarcely, and when it does, it pours hard rain. So what you want to do is replicate that. All you have to do is soak the soil all the way through to get it all like it's a rainstorm, and then the most important thing is they want to dry out all the way after that.
Okay.
So like just dust, like you wouldn't think it's healthy kind, like dry. And that's what they like the most. And that's what makes them easy, is that you can just ignore them and very scarcely water them and they'll be just fine. They're built to survive.
What is plant 2?
Is the snake plant.
Oh, I like it.
The snake plant, yes.
So it is green. It's layered.
It has like really broad,
it has like snake-like
tough leaves.
patterns.
Yeah. It's called
Broad,
the
tough leaves.
snake plant, or the mother-in-law's tongue.
Oh,
It's got lots of different names, and it's one of the easiest plants there is, period, to grow. You can like leave it just like this without dirt for like 2 months on the concrete with no water, and it'll look just like this, just fine. And then you plant it and it grows like nothing happened. You can drop it off a building. Like you can let it go for 2 months without watering it, or you can water it every day. It's a plant that can take a lot of different conditions.
very
So
cool.
instead of just being dry, or instead of just being wet, they can grow pretty much anywhere. And they're one of the more invasive succulent type plants there are. Not sure if it counts as a succulent, but they're very successful and they're very, very easy. And you can keep them inside near your window and they clean the air in your house.
Ooh, that's nice.
I
I've been thinking about like how to clean the air in my house. So
A snake
probably
plant.
probably get you a few of those. And I do want to say that right now snake plants are very like in, like they're very fashionably in to have, so you can find them at a lot of stores.
So this plant is adaptable. That's like we're just gonna use the word adaptable for this plant.
Yes.
It's my number one recommendation for a plant that you like, that's pretty, that has a function of cleaning your air, and that's like impossible to kill.
Yeah.
Now is plant number 3 is the fern.
Patrick is holding a fern.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain it. I think most people know what a fern looks like.
It's green. It's leafy. Like the leaves, so the leaf is long of itself, but then like the leaves have like individual leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the best way to describe? I don't know.
It's one of the more classic growing styles, and it's actually one of the most ancient plants on the planet.
Okay.
This is a plant that doesn't have flowers because it was around before insects existed. And therefore it had no need to create colorful, attractive things for creatures that flew and had eyeballs.
So insects like ferns.
Insects don't really do anything to ferns.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't interact.
They're cool with each other. They're chill.
Yeah. As far as I know, there's really not much that attacks them or eats them. They have very good defenses against insects naturally.
Except
And,
dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs loved them.
Yes.
They ate a lot of ferns. Yeah. The most interesting thing about a fern is that since it doesn't have flowers, it has spores on its leaves, which it uses instead of seeds and flowering. The leaves are covered in millions and millions of these microscopic little tiny spores that just drift in the wind and naturally settle places. So the fact that they're very, very tiny is their way of spreading things around without needing insects to do so. They're used to pretty much any soil type you can put them in. And they like shade, so they're very good indoor plants as well. and it's very, very hard to kill them too.
All right.
Another interesting thing about ferns is that they're usually one of the first plants that colonize new lands, like lava landscapes, because they can grow pretty much anywhere very easily, and they spread very easily via the wind. They're one of the only plants that grows on Hawaii's lava fields. And there are many, many, many kinds, and they all look very different, and you would never be able to tell some of them were ferns by looking at them because of how many, many millions of years they've had to evolve into different things. And that's why they're in the top 3 of my favorite plants.
Very cool. So what's your next top 3, Patrick?
So those were my decoratives, and now I have my food plants. Here's number 1 is the kale plant.
Kale. Kale is really good for you.
Kale.
I feel like people blend it a lot.
Blending it is very good for you, yes.
Kale is such like a controversial topic, mostly because some people are like, oh my god, it's so disgusting and healthy, and I'm over here like, girl, just keep bringing it. Like, I love kale so much. Like, I don't know what it is about cooked kale that just like, oh, I love it. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so I have Patrick grow a lot of kale for me because I like go through it.
This is one of her new ones that we're going to plant in our boxes that we just built. And this plant is going to get about 6 times bigger. So like this big, you know. They get very large, and they're very, very easy just as long as you give them enough space. And all you need to do when the leaf is ready is just pick it off at the bottom and eat it, and the new ones will grow in. So you can keep picking from it for a few years instead of just harvesting it all at once. It's very high in all these vitamins and minerals that you need to be healthy. And like she said, it's really good when it's blended, because then you get all that flavor without having to taste it raw. The raw taste is what people don't like.
Yeah.
And if it's not cooked correctly, and if there's maybe too much of it, and that's what people don't like.
Yeah. And then also taking out the stem, because the stem is the one that has like a bitter taste if you don't really like kale. So you take out the stem, you can still get the most of the benefits from like the leafy parts. But I do like kale. I didn't know it was like easier to grow.
It's very, very easy. A lot of things that people do wrong with vegetables is they want them to do well in a small container, just for saving space. But a lot of these plants get very, very large naturally. And if you just give them a large amount of space, they'll thank you for it. A general rule of thumb is however big the plant is up above is also how big its root structure is down below. So like if you see this big tree, like you know that its roots are just as big, if not bigger, than the canopy of the tree underground.
And there's some big trees out there, people.
I know, right?
The redwood trees, those root systems are monstrous. Number 2, I don't know if you guys have much of this out there in California, but is the Bok Choy plant.
Bok Choy?
The Bok Choy.
Or also Pak Choy with a P.
Bok Choy, the humble Chinese cabbage. It is ranked number 2 in most nutrient-dense leafy greens.
Cabbage?
Yep, it's a type of cabbage, but it's a tropical cabbage. So the difference is its leaves grow out much bigger, and they don't form a clump like the traditional cabbage that we know. You can pick one leaf off at a time and eat it as it grows, or cut off the whole head if you want. So it's very versatile. You can keep it going for a few years, like kale. And it gets pretty big too, like just as big as kale.
And bok choy has like a very mild flavor too. So if you've never had bok choy, it's not as like, I feel like kale has a very harsh flavor. Like it has, like you can taste it. Like even after you cook it, you can taste the kale. I feel like bok choy doesn't really have a very big flavor, I guess would be a good way to describe it.
It's got a lot more of a watery profile.
Yeah, so it can kind of really take on the flavor of whatever you're cooking.
Yes, that's why it's in my top 3, because it's also delicious. It's so good. We eat it all the time with our fish and rice, because it's just very, very easy to soak up all the flavors that you're cooking with. And yeah, it's very, 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 very easy if you're looking into leafy greens. It may not be what you're used to, but I highly recommend it because it's very, very good for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's number 2. The third one that I like to grow the most is herbs, basils. Only because that takes out a large grocery bill.
Because
If you
basil is
have
expensive.
if you have a basil bush outside, you never need to buy basil again.
No.
You just keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Basil. That we cook with basil. People cook with basil.
Yeah, so there's multiple types of basil, but the two that people know the most is the sweet basil. Sweet basil is usually what you would put on like your pastas, or I think a lot of people do make pesto with it, even though there is a basil pesto basil. But yeah, most people know the sweet basil, and another really common one is Thai basil, which you'll see in a lot of like Asian supermarkets and Asian food with pho, stuff like that. But another benefit besides just eating or like food wise for basil is that they're very good bee attractant. So if you're trying to get, more bees to your garden, which is good for pollinating, and just for our environment, like in general, because a lot of like places are, they don't have bees as much anymore just because they're dying out. But they do provide like a good source for the bees to actually come to, and it attracts them and brings it to your garden, which is just beneficial in general.
I was just outside with my basils, and there are bees all over them
all the time.
Basil is an annual, which means that it only naturally lives for about a year until it dies, usually because of winter. But in tropical places here, like Hawaii, you can keep basil alive for a few years by tricking it because it doesn't have a frost cycle that comes to kill it. Every year or so, it will send out lots of these flowers that attract the bees. And if you want to collect the seeds, you can just let it keep going, and that will usually kill the plant. But what you could do is let them go and then clip all the flowers, which in turn will make the plant focus again on reproduction, which means it needs to grow more leaves to grow more flowers later.
Yeah.
So by doing that, you can keep it alive for a few years by getting rid of the flowers.
So we do need to wrap it up a little bit, but Patrick, before we wrap it up, are you ready to reveal the secret thing I asked you to work on?
Yes, I am.
What?
We found a plant that's named after you, Leah.
What?
Yeah.
Lamont, could you pull it up for us, please?
I'll pull it up. It's gorgeous.
That plant right there. It is called the where's the name of it? I didn't memorize the name. It's a scientific name.
Yeah, there's a scientific name. It's it starts with an S.
Leptocarpus, I believe.
Oh, maybe.
Leptocarpus Leah.
It's pretty, isn't it?
Aw, it's a Leah plant.
I was looking for it. I don't think anybody has those here.
That's cute.
I actually wanted to have one for the show, but that wasn't the surprise.
If anyone knows where to get this, go ahead and leave it down in the comments or send us a message, because now I want one.
So I did look for a Lamont plant. There's no such thing.
Aw, man. Did you look for a Patrick plant?
I did. I can't remember if I found one or not. I think I don't think I did. I think the only thing that kept popping up was like the 4-leaf clover.
Yeah, I was going to say like St. Patrick's. Yeah, I figured.
But I was disappointed with that.
Lamont, do you have any closing questions for Patrick or anything that you found interesting?
I feel like I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure how this episode was going to go. I was like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to have a good time doing it because it's Leah and I, and we love Patrick. Yeah, there's so much to learn about plant life, and I hope like people like you didn't just skip this episode because you're like, plants, oh, who freaking cares? Because I thought it was a really good, informative episode. And then I love how Leah was jumping in with flax. It's like, oh, look how educated Leah is.
I know a little bit. I don't help out very often, but I know a little bit.
She had no choice but to learn these things because I talk about them all the time.
This is true. But before we go, Patrick, is there any like brief words that you want to tell to our listeners if they are interested in maybe starting a garden, whether decorative or, for eating or medicinal purposes?
All I want to say is it's a lot easier than I thought it would be at the very beginning, and all it takes is a little bit of knowledge from your friendly local gardener. They're more than likely always willing to help talk about plants, and is the best way to find a plant that's good for your area. And just don't be afraid to get started, because the more plants we plant, the better our whole world will be. I believe so. A lot of people stopped gardening back in the day because of the want to be fancy and to have a grass lawn specifically.
Ugh, hate lawns.
Because
Me
the upper
too.
class,
That's weird.
the upper class would have like nice manicured lawns, and it showed that they didn't need to grow their own food because they were wealthy and they could purchase it all themselves. And a lot of people caught that on. It became a trend, and now we have lots of lawns. And so it's time to sort of reverse that, go back to lots of small scale farms, both for our health and for our sanity and our mental well-being.
Yeah.
Because nothing makes you feel better than taking care of something.
Okay, so the biggest message I took away is that I need to grow my own food, but I know I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to do it. So I need to fall in love with someone who likes to plant and grow so they can do it for me and I can be healthier.
Yes.
That's what I did.
You'll be a green digger.
A green digger. I love that.
I love that.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Lamont, today's activity is not so much an activity and more of an advertisement.
What?
It's an unpaid ad. But
I want to be paid.
Right? I do too. But unfortunately, I don't know if you noticed Patrick's really cool shirt that he was wearing.
Yeah, I saw it. It was black.
Yes. And I don't know if you noticed this really cool shirt that I'm wearing.
I did notice when we first logged on. Is that a jellyfish?
Actually an octopus, but
Oh. It looked like a
anyway.
jellyfish.
So today's activity is just gushing a little bit about the company that Patrick and I own called Lit Designs.
Wait a minute. If we're doing an advertisement for Lit, I think Patrick can fit the bill. Tell him I want $50. No, I'm just joking. Of course we'll do a commercial for you guys.
All right, so just a little bit about our company. We were founded in 2013 officially, but back in 2013, it was just Patrick and his dad. Since then, I have like taken it over. I've taken over like the business aspect of it, but I also do a lot of the color work. So even though all the artwork that we have is Patrick's, I am pretty involved with the art. So I feel like it's mine. Even though I didn't draw it, a lot of time I color it and I make all the like graphic like posts and stuff for our Instagram and everything. So I feel very involved, like it's my baby as well. So today I just want to talk about Lit Designs. We make coloring books and stickers and t-shirts and also art prints. We
And
focus
posters.
on posters, art prints. We've also started making some other things. They're all available on our website, lit-designs.com. You can also find us on Instagram at lit_designs. And yeah, it's very like psychedelic, sort of like trippy artwork. And a lot of Patrick's inspiration comes from nature and comes from the garden and his plants and stuff that he sees all around him. So sometimes you'll see things that look familiar, but like they look different. And that's what he loves to do. He likes to take something and kind of like imagine it different and more like alien and like just a little bit different than you would see normally. But yeah, so that is his specialty. And as part of today's activity, Lamont, I would like to gift you with your choice of a Lit Designs shirt. So
Ooh.
after our episode today, you can go ahead, take a look on our site. Let me know which one you want. And anyone who listens to this episode of the Lamont and Leah podcast, and only this episode, can get 10% off of a shirt using the code Lamont and Leah, spelled LamontAndleah, at checkout. You can also order with us via Instagram or Facebook and just drop that you heard this advertisement on the podcast, and we'll give you 10% off of a shirt. But Lamont, you're getting yours for free.
Awesome. I'll wear it. I'll totally wear it as soon as I get it.
Okay.
So whenever that is, be like, we'll do another promo and be like, hey, like, remember that thing that we did? Here's a shirt. Take it away.
All right. And again, litdesigns.com, lit-designs, and on Instagram at lit_designs. You can check out all the different things that we have. We have t-shirts, coloring books, stickers are our biggest seller, and also prints. And yeah, mention Lamont and Leah podcast and get 10% off of a shirt.
Patrick, before we close, I think there's a very important question that we need to address. So the question is, why is gardening and plants good for our mental, our physical, and our spiritual well-being?
Well, we as a species have been keeping plants since the very beginning to keep ourselves fed and clothed, and we have a very deep connection with the earth, and a lot of that has been lost over time. And I feel what people are missing is just that, is the responsibility in taking care of plants and the blessings of learning everything there is to know about what you can learn about plants around you. It's extremely rewarding. It makes me very happy to see something grow and flourish because of something I did. It makes me feel like my place in life is worth something more so than if, I were just selling CDs at a store. Like, it's very fulfilling. And yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on today, hanging out with your fiance and me and talking to us about plants. Are there any special projects that you have coming your way that you want to share with us?
Well, as you may know, I'm an artist and I'm working on another coloring book for my business, Lit Designs. Leah's been my rock in this endeavor. She's the reason that we're, in business, all of her contributions. Our next book that we're working on is about landscapes, beautiful vistas with forests and mountains and things like that. So
yes,
that will. So
I will probably purchase one for sure, or a couple, because like sometimes I color to like de-stress, and that would be perfect. That would be perfect.
It's going to be our most relaxing book yet. I promise you will all love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We'll be releasing a video game soon.
A video game? That's amazing.
White Fence Games. We make games, and our title is called Drone Combat on the Steam store. You can pick it up for $5, and as soon as we have a good trailer for it, we'll be going more public with it. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so by the time this episode is up, that trailer should be out. So
cool.
The link to that will definitely be in the description below. If anyone else wanted to contact you otherwise, how could they contact you, Patrick?
Yes.
You could contact us via messaging through Instagram at lit_designs. That's about the best way to get a hold of us. Yeah, I like Instagram a lot. Well, that's it for me, huh?
Yeah, that's it
Thanks,
for us.
Guys.
All right, you closed it out for us. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Lamont and Leah show. This has been special guest Patrick of the Lamont and Leah show. Thank you. I had a wonderful time, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you again for being on and coming and talk to us today.
No problem.
All right, and thanks everyone for listening.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, people go through experiences if they meet life honestly and courageously. This is how character is built. That's powerful. Be patient in your growth. Give yourself time and space to try and explore different paths. Let your faith in you and the journey be stronger than your doubts and your fears. Know that you will get there one day, and make sure that you enjoy your journey too. And that is today's life lesson.